97.7 FM KAFA, the voice of the United States Air Force Academy. I'm your host, Alex Lee, every Saturday evening from 6 to 10 p.m. Tonight, we're joined by a very special guest, captain of the Air Force Falcons men's lacrosse team, number 25, Erik Smith. Last Friday, Erik was drafted in Major League Lacrosse by the Boston Cannons with the 37th pick, making him the first player in Falcon history to have been drafted by the MLL. This year, he enters his senior season with 78 career points, consisting of 42 goals and 36 assists. Erik, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks, Alex, for inviting me on the show. I'm pretty excited to do this with you.
And we're ecstatic to have another Falcon make it this far in their athletic career. But most of our listeners probably don't know or aren't too familiar with Major League Lacrosse. Can you tell me a little bit about MLL?
Yeah, sure. Major League Lacrosse is composed of 8 teams, primarily on the East Coast, but you have some in the Midwest as well as Denver. So the teams are Florida, Boston. You have 2 New York teams, a local Denver team, North Carolina, and Ohio. And the season goes from about April to August, depending on postseason and results of your team. It's an interesting situation for the college seniors that were just drafted because they finish out their college season that goes into June, and then once that ends, you jump right into the pro season and compete till late August. So the transition will be an exciting experience, but one definitely to look forward to.
Definitely. And as you approach draft night last Friday, what were your expectations? Did you expect to be drafted? Was there a particular team that you had high hopes for?
Well, initially I was able to work with my collegiate coach, Coach Saramit, and we contacted some professional coaches to get my name out there. On top of that, I worked with a cadet who helped me out with a highlight tape. His name is actually Alex Lee. So these coaches could get a sense of my playing style as well as see me on a YouTube link, which was the easiest way to communicate with them. Anyways, after that, I got a phone call from the Denver Outlaws. That was the only live phone call that I talked to, and only professional team. But my hopes were, I kind of didn't know where I was going. My hopes were high, but I was the first player to ever be drafted from this institution, so I didn't really know where I standed. I knew that people were looking at me because I was in contact with the Denver coach, of course. And it actually worked out, to be great because Boston drafted me. And I do have also other work opportunities there as well.
It's great to hear. And for those of you who are listening who might not know or know what he's referring to, I was actually the one helping him out with his highlight tape. And we got to know each other a little bit better through that, and it was definitely a cool experience. And again, we're here with Erik Smith of the Air Force men's lacrosse team, who was recently drafted by the Major League Lacrosse's Boston Cannons. Again, that's the pro league of lacrosse. Coming up, we're going to find out a little bit more about his path to the academy. Stay tuned in. You're listening to KAFA 97.7 FM. This is Alex Lee. You're listening to KAFA 97.7 FM. I'm joined in studio tonight with Erik Smith of the Air Force Falcons men's lacrosse team. He was recently drafted by Major League Lacrosse by the Boston Cannons, making him the first player ever in Falcon history to have been drafted by the MLL. We previously talked about your entrance into the pro career. We're going to rewind a bit. You're from a suburb of Denver. So you're originally from Colorado. How'd you end up at the academy? Did you always want to come here, or was this a development that came about later in your life?
Well, it was kind of an interesting situation. I was late into my senior year of high school, and I couldn't decide whether to play collegiate lacrosse or collegiate football. So I was looking and taking visits to a bunch of different schools, but I had been in contact with the lacrosse coach here at the academy, Coach Wilson. And he asked if I wanted to take a visit down to the academy and see what it was all about. So one of the weekends I took a visit, just a short drive down from Denver, and I was able to tour the facilities and actually stay overnight with one of the cadets on the team and see the daily routine of an Air Force Academy cadet, which really sparked my interest into the academy
Hmm.
and the institution, as well as the team, and as well as the opportunities provided by such an interesting place. So that really sparked my mind, and I committed about a week later um, to the lacrosse team. And during that time, I had all my applications and appointments going, but I was the first one in my family to enter the military. So I had no military background and never knew really what to expect.
Hmm. And when you did end up at the academy, when you were physically here and you began your cadet career, so to speak, how did you balance the military side of things with being an intercollegiate athlete?
Well, my day is pretty much structured into academics and military in the morning, lacrosse in the evening. So that division really helped me to focus on each of the topics in a daily routine. So my daily schedule is basically, you wake up at 6:30, you go to breakfast at around 7 o'clock. Then from about 7:30 to 11:30, you have class,
Hmm.
and then at lunchtime, which is at 12:30, you have lunch. After that, my academic day is over, and military picks up for about an hour, hour and a half there. And then I go down to the lacrosse field, and then I can focus on athletics there. So it's just there's a lot of transitions that correlate into both of the topics. Being on a team will help you in team project management settings with cadet life. The cadet academic experience also translates into lacrosse, and the combination of the two really makes you set your priorities on what you'd like to do, because there's so much constantly going on at this institution that you kind of have to pick and choose when you're overwhelmed at points.
Right. And obviously, an important principle here at the academy is leadership development. You kind of experience both sides of it, both as a cadet and as an athlete. What was the most valuable lesson you learned, one as a team captain and two as a cadet?
Well, the most valuable lesson was that any decision that you make as a leader is not going to please everyone. So you have to think in terms of what is going to benefit the organization the most. There's always going to be two sides of the story, so you can never just um, fully make a majority decision. It has to be the right decision for the organization as a whole, and you have to skip people pleasing at points when making decisions. And as a cadet, stress and time management is also another important lesson, because there are times in your life there's so many different things that come at you, and to be able to handle that stress and do that in a way that you're able to both perform in the classroom and on the field is a true test. So stress management and also time management. So just will keep you afloat here at the academy,
Right.
and as a leader as a whole.
Definitely. And thanks again, Eric. Again, we're here with Erik Smith, the Air Force Falcons men's lacrosse team. He was recently drafted by Major League Lacrosse's Boston Cannons. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about both his future in the Air Force and in the MLL, how they'll work or maybe conflict against each other, whatever it may be. Stay tuned in. You're listening to KAFA 97.7 FM. You're listening to 97.7 FM KAFA. This is Alex Lee, and I'm joined in studio tonight with Erik Smith of the Air Force Falcons men's lacrosse team. He was recently drafted by Major League Lacrosse's Boston Cannons, that is the professional league of lacrosse, making him the first player in Falcon history to have ever been drafted by the MLL. Erik, during your nearly 4 years now here as a cadet, you're a senior in your final year here at the academy. Is there anything that being a cadet taught you that carried over into your sport?
Yeah, sure. If you're going to do something, I believe that you should do it to the best of your ability. And for me, that came by working hard at whatever I was doing. So on the lacrosse field, it's a Division I sport. You're playing at the best recruited athletes at this level, and basically you got to work as hard as you possibly can in order to succeed at that level. On top of that, you're going to one of the best institutions in the nation, the Air Force Academy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, academics are rigorous, they're tough, so you got to both work hard in the classroom and on the athletic fields. And it's kind of a balancing act between the two. You know, everything's not the same each day. One day you might have to work extra hard, spend more time, more dedication to lacrosse. The next day it might be academics. The next day it might be military aspects.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever you do choose to do it to the best of your ability, because you might only get one shot at it. And that's where I feel like you will accomplish the most and succeed the most in life, is if you really try your best, and by doing so, work as hard as you can towards it.
Right. Now, I want you to imagine yourself 6 months down the road. You're in Falcon Stadium. You're in parade dress. You toss your hat. The Thunderbirds fly over. You're fresh out of the academy. You're in a new city of Boston. You're in the professionals. What do you look forward to most in this next chapter, of your life?
Well, I think for these next chapters, you kind of have to take them in small milestones. You know, the first milestone that I'm most excited for is playing in the Major League Lacrosse situation. You know, these guys are the best in the world, about 250 players that you're competing against. The athletes are bigger, faster, stronger. They're more skilled than the collegiate level, and it's just a great opportunity to play against them. On top of that, I'm moving into a new town, new city, Boston, which I'm unfamiliar with. So you still have to worry about the living situations.
Mm-hmm.
That's another milestone. After that kind of settles in, we get more towards August. I was selected for acquisition officer for the Air Force. So hopefully I will be working at Hanscom Air Force Base, and that will allow me to play both Major League Lacrosse and still complete my job and my duty to the United States Air Force. So there's a bunch of new milestones and new adventures that I'll encounter over the summer and moving into the fall, but I'm excited for all of them, but just take them a milestone at a time, because
Right.
it could be overwhelming just looking at it as a whole.
Definitely. And while you were here at the academy, you majored in management. And as you mentioned, you're slated for an AFSC. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Air Force lingo, it's your job in the Air Force in acquisitions after graduation. Will that conflict with your position as a player on the Boston Cannons, or will it work out?
No, not at all, because being stationed so closely to the city and practice at Hanscom Air Force Base, which is the one closest to Boston,
Mm-hmm.
for our listeners, it shouldn't affect my position at all. And a big thing with the Major League Lacrosse is job security. So it's great to know that I have a job local and something that I'm committed towards and that I have a passion for,
Right.
on top of lacrosse. So the combination of the two is what I've been doing pretty much my entire life, just with having that structure again and again. So that shouldn't affect me at all, and just be more routine that I'm used to, and hopefully just work out to benefit me. But just being so close should really help me excel, and as well as having a regular job. So all those factors kind of go into it, and it shouldn't affect my position at all. And I'm just pretty much excited to get going with
Right.
both of them. So
Awesome. And again, we're here with Erik Smith of the Air Force men's lacrosse team. He was recently drafted by Major League Lacrosse's Boston Cannons. Stay tuned in. Coming up, we're going to discuss the growth of the sport of lacrosse. You're listening to Coffin 97.7 FM KAFA. This is Alex Lee here with you tonight. I'm joined in studio with Erik Smith, of the Air Force Falcons men's lacrosse team. He was recently drafted by Major League Lacrosse's Boston Cannons, making him the first player in Falcon history to have been drafted by the MLL. We talked about this a little bit before, but clearly the sport of lacrosse is still developing. It's still developing from the high school level up to the professional level. It's still developing both in the U.S. and internationally. Where do you see the future of the sport heading?
Well, the original location for the sport is all over the East Coast, New York, Maryland, and along those coasts. Those are the big hotspots and basically where the game was started. But now, because the growth of the sport is the largest growing sport in the nation right now, and it's even transferring to international countries, states like Colorado, Texas, California are huge and growing just in the masses. So the sport is really expanding, and along with the other Division I programs in those states, helps, of course, grow the sport of lacrosse. And it's crazy to see, you have all these news stations actually covering how fast the sport is growing. I don't know the percentile, but it's sure up there. And even if you look towards the southern states, the southeast states like Georgia, we have a kid on our team from Georgia, and it's just crazy to see how much the sport is expanding. You look at the college rosters around the nation, and you see kids from all over the place. Traditionally it was kids from Maryland,
right,
New York, places like that. But now there's so many athletes coming from so many different regions of the nation that you look down the roster and you'll see some kid from California, another from Colorado, even up in Oregon you could have, or Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just basically all over the place, and it's really cool to see the diversity in a locker room as well as a team, because there are so many athletes that are growing and the sport is developing so fast.
Right. You're a senior here at the academy. Obviously, this would make it your last season with the Falcons. Are there any personal goals that you want to fulfill this season before your collegiate career ends?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just start with the team goals because that's what's mostly on my mind. As a little kid, I always grew up dreaming about winning a national championship and celebrating that with my teammates and enjoying the journey to that title. And so that's something that I just share with all of my teammates, and it's probably my top priority, my top goal. Now, on the road to get to that national championship, there's, again, all these little stepping stones.
Mm-hmm.
Another goal would be to win our conference before the national championship, just kind of take it in bite sizes here and not chew too big of a piece off at one time. But we play in the ECAC, which is East Coast Athletic Conference, and that would be amazing to win that conference and then continue down the journey to the national title. Now, my personal goals, I'd like to be named All-American this year. Last year, I was All-Conference within the ECAC, but just to reach All-American would really be a cherry on top, so to speak.
Right.
So that's probably my main personal goal. But like everyone says, team comes first, and national championship would really be the ultimate goal.
Definitely. And you guys are about 3 weeks away from your first game against Denver here at home, held at Falcon Stadium. How's the season looking for the Falcons lacrosse team this year?
Well, we're definitely taking it one game at a time. So, Denver's our first game, and the team is very motivated and excited now that we're in the full swing of things starting the beginning of January. Full practice took place. Of course, the guys were lifting and running over break. Now we're in the gym all together, which creates a little bit of competition in there. And training the body is huge because it really positively affects the team by each individual being in shape. And I think we're doing a great job there. And also staying academically healthy. We're doing a great job there. So in regards to the team, we were able to only lose one starter last year. So that wasn't a huge hit to our team in regards to graduating a certain amount of seniors.
Right.
On top of that, we were able to bring in a huge freshman class that has a lot of depth. And as you see in the offseason, more guys continue to develop. More skills are coming out from certain guys. So our depth has definitely increased from years past. And our team is very motivated and excited about our first game against Denver, as well as the rest of the season. So it's a good sign all around, and we're definitely excited to kick it off.
Sounds good. Erik's going to stay a while. Stay tuned in. Again, we're here with Erik Smith of the Air Force men's lacrosse team, recently drafted by Major League Lacrosse's Boston Cannons. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about his lessons learned in leadership from here at the academy, on the lacrosse team, and as a cadet. Stay tuned in. You're listening to KAFA 97.7 FM KAFA. This is your host, Alex Lee, every Saturday evening from 6 to 10 p.m. I'm joined in studio tonight with Erik Smith of the Air Force Falcons men's lacrosse team, who was recently drafted by Major League Lacrosse's Boston Cannons. Again, that is the professional level of lacrosse here in the United States. This makes him the first player ever in Falcon history to have been drafted by the MLL. Erik, for any potential high school students out there that might be listening in and are interested in becoming intercollegiate athletes here at the Air Force Academy, what is the one best piece of advice that you can offer them?
Well, right off the top of my head, I think I have two pieces of advice. Going back to earlier in the show, we were talking about hard work. And really, to develop your talents as an athlete, you have to put the time in. You have to be working hard. And if you think about it, there's so many kids that are already doing this. So you have to work as hard as you can. And as they say, because someone out there is working even harder than you. So both in the academic classroom and on the athletic field, just work as hard as you can, because someone is always faster, better, smarter. So, you want to really push your own athletic and academic limits to make yourself as most marketable to the collegiate Division I teams. Secondly, I would recommend playing as many sports as you can. Athleticism is a huge, huge part of the game, going beyond strictly lacrosse skills. So I'd recommend becoming a multi-sport athlete. Those coaches are looking for coachable athletes that have the raw talent that can be developed into a Division I type lacrosse player. And you receive different skills from different sports. Playing basketball, you learn about, a split dodge that directly correlates into lacrosse, doing a split dodge and dodging. Football, it's all about opening your hips, which can correlate directly to lacrosse, playing defense. It's similar in both of those areas. So there's so many transitions between both of all of the sports, I guess. And to play as many as you can really develops yourself as the best athlete as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, recruiting is getting earlier and earlier for the sport of lacrosse. You have people committing very early in their high school careers to a certain team. So what you'd like is, sometimes you have to self-promote. You have to self-recruit yourself, as they say.
Right.
And coaches love when people extend out their interests and really, really express that interest, and draws the attention from the coaches onto the player if they weren't seen before. So, so work as hard as you can, become as athletic as you can by playing as many sports and having as much fun as you can. Be competitive, and then go ahead and put your name out there. People are always looking to recruit athletes, so go ahead and self-recruit yourself. Express that interest to the coach at any university that you're looking to attend.
Right, and we're going to end here on a simple note. Erik, what has been your favorite memory of the academy thus far?
2 years ago, we played Army down in Texas for a showcase, and it was also a charity event that was called Beating Cancer with a Stick, and it was a fundraiser for cancer patients and to provide them with more funding for efforts. But going back to the game, it's this rivalry between the service branches that made it a special game. You know, the Air Force, Army, and Navy rivalry goes throughout the military. And this specific game, the game went into overtime, and I was able to score the overtime goal, winning it for our team. And being dogpiled by the rest of my team was something pretty special. So, and then taking just a step back from the immediate game, you're representing the Air Force and the Air Force Academy, which was pretty cool for all of our service members outside of the academy and deployed and all that. You're playing a game representing for them. So in addition to that, you're also, you know, fighting for cancer, which is a huge thing. You know, my grandma and my grandpa specifically had cancer. So that was something dear to me. So the whole event was probably the most memorable thing that I could, my most special memory here at the academy.
Right. And all that sounds great. Again, that was Erik Smith of the Air Force Falcons men's lacrosse team. He was recently drafted by Major League Lacrosse's Boston Cannons. Erik, I want to thank you for being here. Thanks for representing the Air Force in this new domain. We wish you all the best in your future, and we're looking forward to seeing more big things from you.
Thanks for having me, Alex. It was a pleasure to be on your show.
All right, and you can catch Erik Smith, number 25, on February 8th at Falcon Stadium during their first game of the season, actually, against Denver University. You can get more information on their season at goairforcefalcons.com. Also, be sure to check us out online at coffeeradio.webs.com, where you can stream us live and check out all of our latest content. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. In the meanwhile, this is Alex Lee.